As we began Shabbat this evening, we observed what is called in Jewish tradition Shabbat Hagadol, the Great Sabbath, and refers to this Shabbat that anticipates Passover. If you'll pardon a momentary Pesadica pun, the obvious question is, why is this Shabbat different than all other Shabbats or Shabbatot? Well, the history of this name has been the subject of a lot of debate over the centuries. The great medieval sage Rashi first attributed the name to common practice. It's just what everyone had called it. Rashi continues, according to a recent article, with an historical account that the Israelite slaves prior to their liberation and the miracles God performed, which both saved their lives and liberated them from bondage, this Shabbat became a turning point in the minds of the slaves. Instead of being destroyed by Pharaoh's mighty forces for participating in the rebellion, God shields them from harm. Without the Shabbat which preceded Exodus, this Shabbat Hagadol, the Israelites would have been too afraid to leave Egypt. And another source attributes the name Shabbat Hagadol to the verses of the Haftorah portion which the later rabbis assigned to this Shabbat. Taken from the messianic message of God by the prophet Malachi, the verses read, "Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before coming of the great Gadol, day of awesome day, Yom Hagadol of the Lord. And I shall turn the hearts of the parents to the children, and the hearts of the children to the parents." Both examples describe this day of Shabbat as greater than all of the other Shabbats. From slavery and bondage to liberation and freedom, from the ravages of a cruel world to the long-awaited messianic day of hope and peace. Another tradition attributes Shabbat Hagadol to the fact that in earlier times, the rabbi would give only 2 sermons during the entire year. The first on Yom Kippur, and the second on this Shabbat Hagadol. Can you imagine how important these 2 sermons would become in the Jewish calendar if the rabbi only spoke twice a year? Can you imagine how long they would be? Well, I digress. According to a recently updated survey, 58% of those Jewish households which are unaffiliated with any of the national Jewish movements make a Seder each year. That's 58%. Added to this number, 88% of those Jewish households who consider themselves to be moderately affiliated, I'm not sure what that means, but moderately affiliated, and 96% of those label themselves highly affiliated, participate in the Seder each year. That's a lot of Seders. Well, every year I look forward to planning our family Seder. Every year I try to find ways to enhance the experience. And I'm not alone in this. Just look at all the special interest Haggadot published today. There's a Haggadah for freedom, a Haggadah for environment, for gay and lesbians, for youth and for children, for animal rights, for vegetarians, even for chocolate lovers. Well, the list seems almost endless. So, why do we have such a plethora of Sifrei Haggadot, of all these Haggadahs? Well, one reason is that, unlike the Torah, the liturgy of the Haggadah has never been fixed or canonized. Although there has been a basic format since Talmudic times, the content, the way the story is told, has varied since the first Haggadah appeared in the prayer book of Gaon Sadia ben Yosef in Babylonia sometime in the 10th century. Well, according to the Haggadah, we are instructed to tell the story each year to our children. This simple command comes without detailed instructions, so we fill in the blanks. I love talking with other Jews about how they conduct their own Seders. Each family has its own traditions, each with the weight of any rabbinic law. But this year, something else occurred to me while I was preparing for this coming Monday night. I began to realize that the individualized nature of the telling of the Passover story allows for something really quite special for us. Each year, the telling becomes an opportunity for us to tell the story of who and what we are, to tell our story. We are given an opportunity to recreate our moral character, to realign ourselves with the ethical values we hold dear, not just to retell the story of an historical event that occurred over 3,000 years ago. As important as that moment was and continues to be for us, God's miracle provided the Jewish people with an important foundation for life, freedom itself. It's something we don't take lightly, nor do we take for granted. But the aha moment came when I paused to think about the Hebrew word we use for Passover evening itself. It's called seder. It means to organize. That's what it's all about. That's what we do. Not just getting all the food organized, getting the house clean and organized, and all the various ways we organize for the Seder. It is also an annual opportunity for each of us to organize our lives. We are instructed to tell the story, but what is the story we are telling? We tell of our people's collective struggles as we move from slavery to freedom, which compels us to identify with and speak out on behalf of anyone in this world whose rights of freedom have been compromised or seized. But we also focus on what is important to each of us. What are the things in this world that we would not be able to enjoy should our own freedom come to an end? I think that's the real reason why we have such an abundance of specialty Haggadot. It's an attempt to define ourselves. Each Seder becomes a way to put ourselves out there, to say, this is who I am, this is what I am. It defines the essence of our character for another year. Every time we participate in a Seder, we are saying to ourselves and to our family, these are the values that define my life. These are the guiding ethical and moral rules that shape who I really am. So, as we continue to re-experience our people's 3,000-year-old journey to freedom, let us also take a moment to remember the annual opportunity the Seder presents. It is not just the telling of the story of Egyptian bondage and eventual freedom. It is the telling of our own personal story. Just as we change from year to year, so too does our story. But we have the ability to define that story for future generations. We have the ability to choose. The way we tell our story demonstrates what our choices will be in the coming year. Each choice will define us to others. So each year, we will continue to see an increasing number of specialty Haggadot, and each year I will continue to marvel at the number of ways individuals find to tell their own personal story of freedom. Each Haggadah is an opportunity for someone else to say, that represents me. That's who I am. But from now on, my Seder will reflect something different. From now on, I will ask myself, how will I organize my life in the coming year? That means on Monday night, I'm going to ask one of my questions at my family Seder. What will the story be that my life will tell in the coming year? Shabbat HaGadol offers us a moment, suspended in time, to contemplate on the miracle of creation and thereby prepare ourselves for our telling the story of liberation and freedom. If we can help to fulfill the promise of the prophet Malachi to turn the hearts of the parents to the children and the hearts of the children to the parents, perhaps then we will be able to bring about that great and awesome day of the Lord. Now I'm ready for Passover. Shabbat Shalom. Good Shabbos.